Hello, boils and ghouls. You are now tuned in to PVD Horror Podcast. Pleasant screams.
Hey everybody, welcome to PVD Horror. Today we are talking street trash with Ryan Kruger, who has readapted this cult classic from the 80s. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Hey, so Ryan, just like a little background on yourself, man. So you were born in England and then you moved to South Africa. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you made that choice to make that journey?
Yeah. So my mother's English. My dad is South African. So I've always been back and forth my whole life. But I grew up in Liverpool. So I'm a Scouse African, which is probably really hard to find another person from Liverpool that lives in South Africa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always been back and forth. And originally I came here for 2 years to go to the film school, because every time I came here, I got work as an actor and a director. So then I decided to go to the film school just to get a crew together so I could make music videos and stuff. And then in those 2 years, I got my name out and I ended up staying. And cut to 16, 17 years later with about 100 music videos to my name.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just a thing. I think it was a good choice. And I got a lot of acting work as well for a lot of overseas films, American and English stuff that gets shot in Cape Town. So yeah, I think I made the right decision. It was, I guess it was a little bit easier to do stuff here than it was in England. So yeah, I think I was just lucky.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do something if the end game kind of results in the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So I just think I thought it was a very interesting journey that you took, but that makes sense considering you were going back and forth. Now I have to ask you about this. So is Cape Town the part of South Africa that you reside in, or?
Yeah.
Okay. What's it like there? What's the film scene like as far as like the horror genre goes? Are you making films that kind of like fit the mold there, or are you kind of creating stuff that's like not being done?
Yeah. So South Africa in general is like we're very conservative over here. So we don't really make films like this. I think it's starting to get better, and it's starting to make more films out the box. I mean, in the late 70s and 80s, there was probably better films being made then, over the looking back, and then it disappeared for a while, and then I think there's a lot of shit films that has been made over the years. And that's not just me saying that. There's many people that have told me. Don't get me wrong, there is some good ones. Don't get me wrong with that. But there's a lot of crap like that gets made. I'm like, how did that get made? Or who the fuck wrote this? And it's just like bad scripts or bad stuff, or very wrongly cast. And the thing is, we have amazing talent here. We've got so many good actors and directors and DPs and everything. We've got so many amazing people. I think it's just the people with the money are just constantly making the same thing. Sure. So years ago, it was always the poverty movies or apartheid movies. And we're like, okay, we get it. We understand. But then they keep making it. And it's like, we can make other things. And then now I think it's gone into a thing where it's like, it's like the true crime docies and stuff like that, because that's popular everywhere else in the world. So they try and do that, and they just like shove it down everybody's throats. But I think when it came to my first film and with street trash, for South Africa, Fried Barry was like, as I said, we don't make these type of films, so it was the first of its kind. And it's the same with Street Trash. It's the first of its kind. But there is a bunch of filmmakers now that are slowly starting to do these different type of films. Maybe not as crazy as Fried Barry or Street Trash, but it's starting. It is starting to happen, and it's very talented people out there doing stuff. And thank God, it's just a little bit more creative, and I'm so happy that it's going that way, because it's not just for me, it's for other people to be able to make more genre stuff and not just do whatever everybody else is doing constantly over here. That's just have a bit of imagination. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. We've had filmmakers from so many different countries all around the world, and it's always exciting to us when we have somebody like yourself who is kind of like breaking the mold in their country and creating something that doesn't already exist and is kind of quite contrary to what the norm is. So like, I really do, I think it's really awesome that you're doing this and that you're kind of like, have the guts to just go forward with it and not just like you said, just create the things that are, already being done.
The crazy thing is in South Africa for many years, like even at film school and stuff like that, producers and people would say, no, you got to make this type of film because this is what sells. And when they say that, it's like, this is what sells here. And then for me, growing up in 80s and early 90s with all these like horror films and all this stuff, I've got like a million ideas of stuff that I want to do, and I don't want to do any of this stuff. I want to do this stuff. So, I mean, like when I made Fried Barry, it was everything that they said that will not work, in this country. and the crazy thing is, I knew from the films that I love, I knew the audience for Fried Barry would love it overseas. And it worked, and people did love it overseas, and and we ended up winning a lot of awards here. But it's still obviously a very underground film. But we got a lot of press here, and we got a lot of we won 2 SAMAs for it, which is like a BAFTA and stuff like that. So that's really cool and very unexpected. So it is. People are starting to open the doors, and I think Street Trash, when it hits South Africa, it will be a big eye opener as well, because it is I guess it's a more open film that for a larger audience than Fried Barry.
Sure.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And obviously there's lots of people that I do know that love all these crazy type of films, and that reached out and been like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. Or
sure.
I saw Fried Barry, it's the best South African film I've seen. And why can't we make more films like this? And it does feel great doing those different sort of films that nobody else is doing in the country, which is crazy,
So I have to ask you this: what films was it that ruined you? Like, what movies created this person who's making these gross, amazing, like gory, slimy films? There has to be a backstory here.
Yeah, it's probably all the films that you got there in the back, in the back there. It's one of those like growing up, and I've mentioned this quite a few times, but it's one of those things, growing up in the 80s and early 90s. My dad let me just fucking watch whatever, and then we would obviously watch a shitload of movies. We'd go to video shop on a Friday or a Saturday. We would be in there for like 2 or 3 hours. Where me and my brother will pick, a film, and then the great thing was he would be like, okay, you can get 2 films, and we're like, oh my God, and then we're in there for another hour trying to pick that, and then we'll end up walking out with like 3 movies, and and back then it was just like looking at that front cover and that artwork, going, oh, this looks awesome. You haven't even read the back, like, oh, this looks awesome. Let's watch this, and then apart from that, back in the day, passing like VHSs around of like Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever gory film it is. And it's just I guess it was just a big part of my childhood, watching all these films and loving all the gore, whether it's like The Fly or The Shining or whatever it was. I mean, there's a hell of a lot to mention. And but it was just a big part of my childhood, and it's awesome. I think kids of today just don't get it, like how it was, like going into that video shop and just spending so much time in there and picking 5 out. your brother picks five out, your dad will pick five out, and we just gotta bring it down to those ones that you're gonna watch. And
Yeah.
then on weekends, going to your friend's house, and there'll be a group of you, and you sit there and you watch all these like scary movies because you know that other people have spoke about it and said, oh yeah, it's going to be really scary, it's going to be really gory, or it's got banned, and it makes you want to watch it even more. And it's special times.
Anything taboo is like, I gotta watch that. So it's
exactly
sure.
As soon as when somebody goes, you're not allowed to watch this, and you go. It's like hiding that like Christmas present. You're like, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna fucking look for it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when was your first experience watching the original Street Trash?
It was. I guess it was. It's probably early '90s. Probably when I. I think it was. Yeah, probably early '90s or something like that. And it was sitting with my friends, watching. On the little TV on a weekend, or it was either on VHS or it was like on TV at like 2 o'clock in the morning or some shit like that. And then eventually we had a VHS, and then we would watch it with a bunch of other stuff as well and pass that around. But so I always knew what Street Trash was. So when I was approached to do the film, I knew what the film was, and I was like, wow, that's cool. And then my first thing was, I don't want to copy the original. I want to leave it alone. I want to make it more of a sequel. We actually mentioned the original film in this film. And, for a new audience, it could be a standalone film. For a fan, they can see it's in that same world just later on.
Yeah. What is it about Street Trash that you feel like made you a good fit for making this film?
I don't know. I guess it's like when somebody gets my style, and that's literally what happened. They watched Fried Barry, and people started saying, "Oh, Ryan Kruger would be great for that." And I have my style, but it's one of those things where it sounds weird, but it's one of those things where I don't even know what the fuck my style is. I just do what I do, and then I guess everybody's like, "Oh, you can tell you directed that," and I'm like, "How?" And they go, "I don't know." Well, there's those. I guess it's those things that I don't know, like whatever style that I've got. So I think it just fitted in hand, and then obviously loving like 80s movies and stuff like that. And because we shot on 35, there was just all those things that just connected so much more, that just made it feel more 80s and look more 80s and have that grit. And there's nothing like shooting on film. So I think that was super special, to do that. But my biggest thing was I gotta do really good prosthetics. It's got to be in camera prosthetics, which I'm a major fan of. So I was very excited to do that. Obviously, we have to have the multicolored goo. That's a part of the DNA of the original Street Trash.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we had to also do it about homeless people. And I thought that was a great subject and a commentary on society of today and what's happening around the world. So I thought that was really cool. And I love making a strong story and have it layered. Some people will pick up on it, maybe some people won't.
Sure.
But also having very strong characters and fun characters that you can go on this journey with, that will make you laugh and enjoy the film. And it has its comedy moments, and it has its silly moments, and it has also a lot of heart, and it has all the goo and the gore and the splatter that all the people from the original loved.
Yeah. There's some parts of this that has got that classic slime 80s film aspect to it. But then there's also parts of it that I'm like, this almost feels like it could be in an alternate RoboCop universe where the government is very involved, and there's just a lot to this.
There's so many Easter eggs in the movie, and it was the same with Friar Barry. There's so many 70s, 80s, early 90s little Easter eggs and references there, and it's all movies again that I grew up watching.
Exactly.
And, talking about RoboCop, where when he comes out and he gets hit by he's melting and he gets hit and he explodes. It's all those things, and this was very much like being a kid, trying to recreate all those like fun movies that I watched when I was a kid and be like, oh, this will be cool if we did this, and this shot will be great. It will be like Mad Max before the car hits him and it goes into his face and then he explodes. You know, it's all those little things that that is very cool to do and to see, and those film lovers like yourself that will pick up on these, you know, bits of detail here and there.
This was one of those films that as soon as it was released, I was instantly excited. And I actually reached out to you on social media like the day that I heard that this was released. And I was like, we have to have you on this podcast. And at that time, like, you're like, yes, but we have to wait because I can't talk about it yet. And I'm so glad that that actually did happen, that was able to watch the film and then chat with you after. I was just very excited for a very long time about this film. And it didn't let me down because, like you said, it's got the street trash influence, but you made your own film, but kept the aspects of it that make it a street trash movie, which is essentially like the body melt aspects and the homeless aspects. But I did want to ask you, what felt important? Like, there's certain themes that are present in the original, and there's obviously going to be some different themes that are present in this one because of like today's society and stuff like that. What newer aspects do you think viewers will identify with that kind of fit today's society versus like the 80s film?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, you know, while writing the film, you know, I really wanted to have that layered within the story. And as soon as the first thing before I have fun writing the script, obviously I need to get that like solid story. And it just made sense to me to, you know, to have it in this dystopian future broken down, and have it about, you know, about the government. And it's obviously, you know, when you watch 80s films now, or even films that are made now but set in the 80s, it's just stylistically, it just looks cooler and it just looks better than just the modern society, you know, the modern look. So it's always nice to have a kind of a look to a film. So that was a big part of it. And then, you know, to have all the stuff what's laid within the film with society and the government, it's all shit like what we've been through. I mean, you know, you look at COVID, you know, and the government saying you can't do this and you can't do that and you've got to do this, and it's that government controlling us. And you know, when we, you know, during COVID, we had to wear a mask, or we had to get jabs, or we had to get this. So, you know, the whole film was the rich is the government, the poor is the homeless, and there's no middle class. And it was, they were calling the shots, and they, you know, if they want to get rid of you, they can get rid of you. You know, it's like the cash thing. The cash is going out slowly around the world. You know, everything's tap card and this. But as soon as we have no cash, we have no control over everything's in the account. If they want to block anything, we won't have any. You know, we won't have anything to trade with or anything if you know, the government blocks. So there was stuff like that with the government being in control. And then obviously majorly after COVID, you know, a lot of people lost their businesses, a lot of people lost their houses, and it's a worldwide problem right now, more so than ever, even before, but more so now, is that, you know, go back to England or seen in America or the same in South Africa, is there's so much homeless people around the world, and it's fucking nuts. It is crazy. And to know how much money there is around the world and people can still be living on the streets is fucking mind. It's just fucking crazy. So so I really wanted to, you know, really put that, you know, in the film. I think some people will pick it up, some people won't pick it up. I had one review saying, you know, we should have really had a message or a real thing about society. And I was like, there's fucking plenty in there if you fucking see it. And then you'll get somebody else that watches it and goes, yeah, you know, you really made a thing about society and this and this and this. So some people pick it up and some people won't. But again, it's one of those where I do step back from that as well. And, you know, it is there for a reason, and it is a fucking problem, and it is a serious thing. But I also step back and go, this film is a melt movie, and it is what it is. You know, don't take it too fucking seriously when it comes to, you know, overall. I'm not trying to fucking win an Oscar. I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to reinvent the fucking wheel here. It's just a fun movie to watch with your friends. It's a popcorn melt movie to have fun with it and watch it. And if you pick up on bits of details and stuff, then that's fucking great and that's cool. And there's little messages there, you know?
Yeah. No, and I think that's the best, when you can kind of pick and choose how you want to view the film. If you're in the mood where you want to like look for messages, there's plenty there, like you said. But if you want to just enjoy a melt movie, this is definitely going to satisfy.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to force it. You know, the way I put it in, I'm not trying to force it down anybody's neck, because that's the other thing. Some people try and do that, and they're like, okay, if they just did less of that, it would have been, you know, it would have been better. So it's just like, it's there.
Yeah.
You just got to pick it up.
So obviously, like the body melt stuff, like you said, is a huge part of street trash. It's kind of the reason why I think people even are like, yes, I want to see street trash. I know what I'm going to be in for. Were there challenges with making such a gooey movie? Like, was some of that stuff really hard? Did you pull off like what you were hoping to pull off with the effects?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a whole process, and you know, in pre-production and even writing, coming out with an idea. And then when it comes to pre-production and sitting there with the prosthetics people going, you know, can we do this? Can we do this? Or how long is this going to take? Or how expensive is this going to be?
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing. And then some things work, and then some things didn't work, and then we tried something else, or we did a pickup shot, and then we got what we wanted in the end. But there is those challenges, you know, because when somebody watches, it's like with any film, when somebody watches a film, you know, the scene is 10, 20 seconds or however long it is, and then it's over. And they think, you know, they don't think about all the hours that went in just for this shot and just for this shot. And, you know, while we're filming, you know, we're shooting on 35 and we're on 2 cameras. So we've got, you know, we're concentrating on the next shot, or we're concentrating on the person's back and the goo coming out, or the ankle breaking or the wrist breaking. And, you know, it's all that thing that takes time. And then if it doesn't work while we're doing it, then we got to reset and then do it again until we get what we want. And sometimes there's those happy mistakes that happen, and then we get a double fucking blood coming out by mistake, but it's even better. And you know, so there's those things that happen. But there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and it is hard work to get exactly, you know what we set out to do. So, but it was a fun process. Maybe not so much for the actors, because it was winter and it was freezing. You know, when you're working with prosthetics, you know, sometimes the actors in makeup for like 6 hours already, and then it gets to night, and then the pipe, we've already done one shot, so all the pipes have pushed all the blood out. Sometimes there's a pipe that doesn't end up pushing it out, and it just goes down the body instead. And they're lying on the cold pavement, and they're like shivering, and it's like, oh, how long's left? And I'm like, it's quite a while. We've still got quite a lot to go. and you know, those things happen, but everybody was a great sport, and we got it in the end. And I think some of the actors was like, this was great, but I would never fucking do that again. It was like painful.
Like, do not call me for the sequel, please.
All that. Yeah. So that was fun. But when they've watched it or looked back on it, they've been like, "Oh, that's amazing!" And it's just cold and a lot going on while you're doing it.
The end justifies the means. They just got to keep that in mind. So we also see the return of Gary Green from Fried Barry. What made you choose to have him return for this film?
You got to put Gary in it, man. It's just one of those, like, I love working with Gary, so it wouldn't be right if I didn't put Gary in this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, when I work with Gary, I always cast Gary in the right parts to make him shine the most. You know, he comes from a non-trained acting background, so I have to work with him very, very closely to get what I want. And he had to be in the movie, and he was great. And that's why I love the cast in this movie. You know, when you look at the main gang, everybody's different, and there's something different in it for everybody. And Gary's just that fucking weirdo with his imaginary friend that just, it's awesome. And so far, all the feedback that I've got, people love Gary and they love Sokol, and they've just gotten mad about them both, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, he's got this really great like turnaround moment later in the film that is like, you can't help but to be like super pumped when that moment happens. But you just mentioned his imaginary friend. Where did this idea come from? And Yeah. What the fuck was
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It
I
was
love
one of
it.
those things, and like I said, while writing this film, it was again, I wanted it to be more of a sequel, and I also wanted to have my own stamp on it, and I also wanted it to be very different. So in that process, obviously, I was open to whatever
Yeah.
happens, and then it was just the one day I came up with it, and I already wrote a lot of the scenes already. And then I went back and then I had to add this character because I was just like, he should only pop up every now and then.
Yeah.
He's not in it the whole time. It's just his imaginary friend. He has to pop. And I just thought it was a great idea. And what was great about it was because I work with Gary so closely to get what I want, this character was almost like a support boat for Gary. So I could work with him closer and the audience will like bounce but looking at both of them
Yeah.
and the comedy will be perfect for both of them. So yeah, I guess it was a lot of fun, and because I did the Sokol voice as well, it was just one of those things that it just worked.
That was you.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of fun, and I did all the dialogue for Sokol on set as well, which was awesome because I
Oh,
didn't
that's so
really
cool.
want to host,
Yeah.
and that was a thing at one point. But I think it was it was right that we did it on set, and it
That's
just made it so much funnier. But by the end of it, my voice was like, oh, I can't like talking this voice anymore.
yeah.
So, but it was cool.
So release wise, you guys are already available currently on I think on like Amazon or wherever you get digital. And then
Yeah,
you're
it's
gonna
Amazon, Apple, and I think there's a lot of other platforms. And then
yeah,
Screambox
yeah,
starts next month.
next month. So how did you get linked up with Screambox for that release?
So originally the producers, Justin and Matt from Joe Bob's Last Drive-In, they originally approached me for the film,
Mhm.
and they obviously got on um, Vinegar Syndrome and Screambox and Bloody Disgusting, and they all believed in the movie, and we all just came together and again with the Vinegar Syndrome, shooting on 35 millimeter film, it was awesome. It was super special to be able to shoot a feature film on 35, which I never thought I would ever do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, did you think in your career that you get to this like status where you are now like the go-to gross out guy and like people are going to be that excited for your films to be released?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. You know what? It is really crazy how it's one of those things where I've always wanted to do what I do for the
Yeah.
longest time. And before making Fry Barry, doing all those music videos and basically doing a lot of short films within music videos, doing the commercials, doing the short films, doing the experimentals, is that dream to do that feature. And I know one day I would do it. I just didn't know when I would
Yeah.
fucking do it. And
Yeah.
then soon as Fry Barry came out, and that was just the amount of fans for that movie and the amount of people that reached out to me was insane. And to do now Street Trash and a lot of people, it's also open it up to people that haven't seen Fry Barry that'll go watch it now because
Yeah.
of Street Trash. And so yeah, it's just been a great thing. And already within 2 days, the amount of messages and people that have reached out to me that have just watched it has been like insane already. And I think for any filmmaker out there, you have to know how lucky you are to actually get your movies out there and for people to actually talk about your movies.
Yeah.
It's crazy because there's thousands and thousands of people around the world that make films constantly that don't go anywhere, that people don't talk about or don't see. And anybody to make a film is a miracle, but for anybody to make a film that actually people talk about is nuts and it's crazy. So I've been very lucky that I think I've built a really good fan base and audience, and I'm seem to be doing something right. So which is
Yeah.
cool, and I'm just going to carry on doing what I love doing, and then I guess I just hope. You can't please everybody. That's the one thing I obviously like with
Sure.
anything in life. It's just like But it's also about you and not about them. It's all about what you want to make and what you want to do. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, it's not for you. And that's like every film. That's like a guy or a girl going, oh, I like brunettes, or I like blondes, or I like, it's like if you're not into it, then don't fucking watch it.
It's especially for art. Like, I think the goal for any kind of form of art is like you make it mostly for yourself, but the goal is always to like hopefully it impacts somebody else, right? So it's
absolutely, yeah.
So and I think that's going to be the case for any platform, any kind of media that you work on. It's like it's not always going to be for everyone. Not everyone's going to connect with it. The goal is just one, but I think you've connected with more than just one. So you're already exceeding that goal.
And it's that trust. It's that trust that that if somebody approaches you to make a film like what happened with Street Trash, it's they've asked me because they enjoyed Fried Barry. They've asked me because they like my work. They've asked me because they trust me, and they're not gonna they're not gonna try destroy what I want to do. You know what I mean? Sometimes there is like I'm fighting for certain things or whatever, but it's one of those things that was like, you hired me to do this and I'm going to do it and it's going to be fucking good. I know it's going to be fucking good. So it's, and it's only until it's out and everybody starts talking about it. And then people are like, okay, it is good.
Yeah.
So
so I just have to ask you this question about Fried Barry. What is it that you think is giving it such a cult status? Why do people love Fried Barry so much? Like what are they connecting to, do you think?
Again, I think it falls under that. I mean, I could be wrong. This is what I'm thinking. I think it falls under that. Again, that like '80s type of nostalgia in film, and I think it's a kind of a cool, unique idea, which I thought was a bit fresh and a bit different. And every idea is borrowed from something else. Like my main references when I shot Fried Barry, I looked at like Bad Boy Bubby and I looked at Starman and I like literally put them together, and then like put E.T. in there and just fucking mash it up, and then it's something different, and then it's something new. And so soon as that came out and people watching, I was like, oh, this is a cult film. This is going to get cult status. And then already with this film, people have also been saying that, which is awesome. It's like, oh, I think it's going to be a cult film as well. I'll be like, oh, that's awesome. If it ends up, what everybody keeps saying, then it can't be. I guess it can't be wrong if everybody keeps saying it. I think it just grows from there. But again, I'm just happy that people are watching the film.
100%.
I'm happy that people are enjoying the film, and that's what's cool. And it is what it is. And if I get anybody to watch any of my films a second time, I've already won, and I'm fucking happy, because most films these days we don't watch it twice. Sometimes we can enjoy a film and go, that was great. That was cool. I don't want to watch it again.
Sure.
And then there's some films that I watch that I'm like, fuck, I actually really want to watch that again. And I want to, I'm going to let it sink in, and then I'm going to watch it again. And for a second time screening, there's lots of stuff, especially with Fried Barry. There's a lot of people that watched it twice and picked up on things that they didn't see the first time. And I think Street Trash is exactly the same. There's a lot of shit that you might not pick up on the first time, and then you'll see it on the second time.
Yeah. So the thing I'll share about my experience with Street Trash is, and then people who listen to this podcast already know, like I always say, if I think about it later, then I know that it was something that impacted me and I enjoy that. That's like the goal usually for me, is to watch something that is kind of like going to stick in my mind later and I'm like processing it. After I watched Street Trash, I was actually like kind of surprised how much I was invested in like those characters. So it was more to me than just like a body melt film, which is what I went into, like excited for the body melt part. But then I was like, I actually like started to really get invested in these characters, and I started to think
tugs on those heartstrings, I'm not going to say who dies, but when that person does, you're like, oh no, not him.
There's like humor with them. There's this tenderness with them, and it's like something you don't expect from this type of film, is like to have that emotion while you're watching a film where people are literally melting in front of your face, and there's like these gross out scenes, and then you're like, oh, I really like this character, and that stuck with me after I watched the film, and then like dissecting the message, and then I was like the past few days, all I've been doing is like looking at like people's like input about it or their thoughts about it. And I saw there was a Variety article written about the messages about homelessness. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, look at us dissecting a freaking body melt film. And I love that because that's the type of experience that I want from a film. But I also appreciate the fact that other people are going to be able to experience this more on a surface level and enjoy it. Some people will dig even further in. I just think it's hit on so many different levels. And I was just really glad, like I said, I was glad to be able to check this out so quickly. And also just that it was done from obviously someone who's such a fan of the genre, of the original, and is making films that like nobody else is making. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you so much, man. Very much appreciated. And and I think that's the thing, to get anybody to watch it twice, to think about it after they've sat there afterwards and thinking about it. I mean, that's what I want. And I always say, especially it's with any movie, it sounds so easy and simple, but when you write a script and you're making a movie, there should be scenes in there, and it sounds very simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't. There should be scenes in a movie that you remember, that you want people to remember and to talk about. And as I said, it sounds super simple, but I think a lot of writers don't do that. And because when you watch these great movies, whether it's fucking Tarantino or whatever, there's certain scenes. I always use like Pulp Fiction as an example. When if I say Pulp Fiction, what scenes do you think of? Are you thinking about Uma Thurman and John Travolta dancing on the dance floor? Are you thinking about the guy in the gimp suit in the basement? There's those scenes that you automatically think of when you think of the movie. And that's what's important. It's what's important is to have those scenes for the audience to remember those scenes and to talk about it. And if people are talking about it, then you're already winning, because there's plenty of films that get made that nobody's fucking talking about whatsoever.
Very true.
So
Yes.
To make a film in this type of genre and have strong characters and have characters that people like and go on this journey with, because there's plenty of movies that sadly that get made in this genre where the gore is great but the story's shit, or the gore is great and then the characters are shit and you don't care about it. So for me, I had to tick those boxes to have those great characters, to have that good story, to have the prosthetics and the gore to be top notch. And that was, it should be every movie that gets made that should have, that dynamic in it. It's important. Otherwise, the movie's flat and you just don't care about it.
Absolutely. Ryan, thank you so much for taking this time to, talk with us and talk street trash. Can you tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you to follow, future projects and stuff like that on social media?
Yeah, if you're on Facebook, just type in Ryan Kruger. It should come up. On Instagram, it's a Ryan Kruger thing. On Twitter, a Ryan Kruger thing. I'm always updating stuff and putting news out there. So yeah, keep a lookout. If you haven't seen Street Trash, go watch it. If you watch it and you enjoy it, go on Letterboxd, show me some love, let me know what you thought of it. And until the next project, I'm sure I'll speak to you again. Yes. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Everybody, check out Street Trash as soon as possible. Like you said, write some love on Letterboxd, but also share your thoughts on our social media. I would love to hear other people's views and opinions about the film. We'll talk to you later. Have a good night, everybody. See you.
Game over. You lose.